Hello, vinyl community, and anyone else watching this. I just finished making a non-essential Christmas albums video, so if you're in the mood for unfestive holiday stuff, check that one out. This video is going to be a response to an interesting and a very good, I think, idea that comes from Steve Flipside CT, who wants people, and he's doing it too, to do a series of videos, and he's calling them Under the Radar. So this is my Under the Radar. He wants you to do albums that just, not that are unknown, but maybe some, especially younger people in the VC that are just getting into vinyl, don't know about. He keeps going to record shows and seeing young kids with their hands full of just common albums. And, you know, he's like, that's great, but there's a lot more out there to explore. So, with that in mind, that's what this is about. But I'm going to make it more about artists than albums, because a lot of the artists that I'm going to talk about here have more than one good album. But I'm not showing whole catalogs or anything. I'll just show a couple. And I want to start out with, sadly, one of my favorite bands now that many people know about or appreciate, and that's the Smithereens. And I say sadly because a couple days ago, Pat Denizio, the leader and lead singer, major songwriter for the Smithereens, passed away at the age of 62. And I didn't even know about this. I turned on YouTube, and there was Naz Nomad with R.I.P. Pat Denizio video, and I was like, really? Holy cow. So I'm kind of heartbroken about this. This is very sad to me. The Smithereens were a great band. So this is probably their most famous album. It's maybe their best album as well. It's called 11 in reference to the Spinal Tap thing, where this one goes to 11. They're there on the back. That's Pat right there, I'm pretty sure. This is really great. If you're into even the Beatles, if you're into power pop, if you're into any sort of 90s alternative, these guys rock. These guys were a rock and roll band, first and foremost, but they wrote great songs, had really great vocals. Pat Denizio had a great voice, and they're just a rockin' band. And there's not a bad track on this album. This album is just fantastic. So, Smithereens, 11. I also recommend their first album, Especially For You, is really good. Strangers When We Meet is just one of the most heartbreaking songs ever. It's just fantastic. There's track list on that one. And what else was on? Groovy Tuesday's great. Cigarettes, great. Time and Time Again. Behind the Wall of Sleep. Oh my God, what a great song. Blood and Roses. Fantastic album. For those of you not in the know, Smithereens, definitely. And also, as I said, they were Beatle fans. Smithereens, Meet the Smithereens, and B-Sides the Smithereens, as I hold them up in the exact opposite way they are. They put out two Beatles sort of albums. They packaged them together on Koch Records, so they're on two discs, gatefold jacket, both albums. Highly recommend this. They did such a good job. They also did a cover album of The Who's Quadrophenia, which is really good. They have a really good Christmas album. Their 90s stuff isn't so great. They have an album called 2011, which is their last album, which was really, really good. Any of this stuff, if you can find it on CD too, pick it up. Green's good. That's their second album, I believe. just almost anything by this band is really good. So, Under the Radar, the Smithereens. Under the Radar, Emitt Rhodes. Not so much this album because people talk about it and you may know about it. This is a fantastic album. If you're a Beatles fan, this is almost a must-own. This is kind of the first Beatle tribute album in a way. It's fantastic. There's Emmett right there. But people don't talk about this. Emitt Rhodes' American Dream. This came out. He basically owed A&M Records. He was in the merry-go-round, and he left the merry-go-round, and he owed A&M one more record. And so A&M put together some quote-unquote scraps and put this out. But this is fantastic. This is nearly as good, I think, as the Emitt Rhodes album. This has a great track on it called Pardon Me, which may be my favorite Emitt Rhodes song. And it's got Holly Park on here. In Days of Old, You're a Very Lovely Woman, which is also on the merry-go-round they threw in probably just to sell some records. Let's All Sing is fantastic. This is an overlooked gem, in my opinion. A pop gem. If you know and like the other Emitt Rhodes album, find this. Trying to see if I'm putting them right side up or upside down. Right side up, I guess. And this is his last album before he sort of retired. He did do an album last year, I think, and it's pretty good. But this is another overlooked album that's really, really good. It's not as good as the other two, but it's got two of my favorite songs on it. Farewell to Paradise and Warm Self-Sacrifice are both fantastic. Emitt Rhodes, check him out. Next, Tony Okay. I don't hear much about Tony Okay. This guy was a singer-songwriter who loved to rock. I mean, it's punkish in a way, but it's not punk. But his vocals can be punkish and snotty, and he has one of the most original voices I've ever heard in my life. And this is the place to start. Like in the food chain. Why couldn't I remember that? This is a promo copy, and I will show this one because it has a nice insert. There's Tony Okay right there. There are like 15 people on this record. He loved these, like 4 guitar players and 3 drummers, and it's on green vinyl, the promo copies, which not a lot of them are. Which is really cool. There's also, I believe it's a Canadian issue on some marbled sort of white vinyl, which is also really cool. I'd love to find one of those. But, again, punky, but not punk, but a huge sound, like I said. There's loud. There's a song called Hatred on here, which is just fantastic. But there's a Night Fast, Rodney Went Crazy, just... Well, there's your track listing right there. Just a very, very cool. If you like rock and roll and just rock, you will like this guy. Check Tony Okay out. And not quite as good as his America album. This is his follow-up. By the way, Tony Ok's first 4 records were on 4 different labels. He didn't fit in with anybody. This one's a CBS import, but I think he was on Epic in America for the second album. The first album was on Full Moon. Third EP was on Capitol. They went to A&M What Records. This has One Big Happy Family, which is great. Go Away. Trouble's amazing. Girl Crazy is great. Oh, this one has the Night Fast, Rodney Went Crazy on it. Second album. Just, again, check him out on YouTube or wherever you can find him. And lastly, I'm going to do, this is sort of his comeback album. He was away for a few years, and then A&M came out with their What Records label. I'll play on this side for a minute. And he was one of the first artists they signed to What. Cleaned himself up a little bit. This is a very 80s produced album, but if you can get beyond that, the songs are amazing. If you remember an 80s video by Charlie Sexton called Impressed, he wrote that, and this is... The original version is on this record. Really good. This is one of my 10 easily favorite albums of the 80s. Tony OK, Romeo Unchained. The song Impressed is just fantastic. He did one record later. I'm not going to show it after this. He did a few. They're on CD. They're hard to find now, but you can find them. But his next album, he had Booker T of Booker T and the MGs on it with a song. I'm not going to remember the name of the song. Hang on, it's right here. I'll find it. I'll wind up showing the record because I'll find it. This one is called Notes from the Lost Civilization. And this is a sealed copy. I have another copy somewhere. I didn't know I had a sealed copy. But the song is the Executioner's song. Fantastic. I mean, the second you hear it, you know it's Booker T, man. You just go, wow. So this isn't quite as good as the last one, but still worth having. I love it. It's worth having for the cover. By the way, there's a thread going on of black and white covers. There you go. Next guy I want to talk a little bit about is Robert Gordon. Robert Gordon was a rockabilly guy in the mid-70s, but not only Robert Gordon with Link Wray. The two albums these two guys did together, if you like just rock and roll and really good, fast guitar playing, this is a guy. Right here, Robert Gordon and Link Wray. And I might even like the second one better, Fresh Fish Sandwich. Robert Gordon and Link Wray. There they are again. And again, black and white covers. And they do some covers, they do some original. Robert Gordon was from Washington, D.C. How he got hooked up with Link Wray, I have no idea. But together, these two were friggin' magic. Two must-own albums, in my opinion. Check them out. Another overlooked gem. People don't talk much about Graham Parker. This is probably his best album, at least with The Rumor. Squeezing Out Sparks. Just fantastic. It's got Discovering Japan, Local Girls, Passion is No Ordinary Word. What a great song. Just Waiting for the UFOs. Great overlooked album. Pub rock, sort of. Heading towards punk, but not getting there. Pub rock, basically. Awesome, awesome record. You hear about this guy once in a while, but not enough. Nick Drake. This is my favorite by him, Brighter Later. Originals are very hard to come by. They have been reissued, but don't buy this reissue. This is on Island, and it's a really poor pressing, and a lot of them were. It's been reissued since. Buy the reissue since. This one comes in like a heavy plastic sleeve with a flap. Don't buy that one. But this guy, an angelic voice, took his own life. Depressing guy, but friggin' what a voice, what a songwriter. Hazy Jane too on this is fantastic. But Fly is one of my favorite songs in the whole world. If you've ever seen the Royal Tenenbaums, Fly is in the movie. I think when the one son is trying to kill himself, I think they're playing Fly. Anyway, they're playing Fly in that movie, and works great. Anyway, Nick Drake, his Pink Moon album is really good. All of it, anything, but Pink Moon is really good as well. Nick Drake. Man, another man I don't think gets enough love in the VC, Warren Zevon. You can find his albums. They're pretty much everywhere. And I recommend Sentimental Hygiene. Nobody talks about this album. This album is fantastic. The title cut's great. The Factory is great. Bob Dylan is playing harmonica on The Factory. Boom Boom Mancini is fantastic. Reconsider Me is really good. And Detox Mansion is just one of his best songs ever. Warren Zevon. Sentimental Hygiene. Another highly recommended, just straight out rock record. So if you're a rock guy, check him out. Check that record out specifically. Laura Nyro doesn't get enough love either. More Than a New Discovery. This is her first album on Verve. Laura Nyro was a fabulous songwriter. Wrote Three Dog Night covered her. Fifth Dimension covered her. Also, the Fifth Dimension's hits were by Laura Nyro. The original version, in fact, of And When I Die, Blood, Sweat, and Tears covered her as well. Is on here as well. I was thinking, yeah, Wedding Bell Blues, the original version of that. So, and Todd Rundgren, she was the biggest influence there is on Todd Rundgren, on his singing. It's Laura Nyro. So if you're a Todd Rundgren fan, check out Laura Nyro. Almost anything. Doesn't have to be this album. Almost anything is worth checking out by Laura Nyro. And if you like the rock and roll, if you like your rock and roll a little bit on the punchy side, on the raunchy side, but still rock and roll, of course, Suzi Quatro, any of her albums, again, before 1980, are really good. She played Leather Tuscadero on Happy Days, and is probably Joan Jett's single biggest influence. Suzi Quatro does covers and just rocks it out. If you like Joan Jett, you will like Suzi Quatro, period. Couple more here, albums that fly under the radar. This one got re-released on Record Store Day a couple years ago. Herman's Hermits Museum. Just a really good, very soft pop with a little bit of psych elements record. Just a very overlooked under. You can find these cheap originals easily. You can find this album and you'll be surprised how good it is. Just soft pop with some psych elements. Easily Herman's Hermits best. Peter Noone there on the back. Undertones don't get enough love in my opinion. This is their first album. It's the greatest hits around. Any of their albums are great. I like this one best, but any of their albums great. Feargal Sharkey, if you remember him, came out of this band. Teenage Kicks, and what's the other big hit? I can't. Get Over You. Fantastic. Just punk, but pop punk. It's just awesome. Awesome guys from Ireland. The Undertones. Don't even know which is the front. I'm going to call that the front. And two newer records. If you're out and about looking for newer things to listen to that slipped under the radar. The Hot Rats, Turn-Ons. These are two guys from Supergrass, I believe. This is all, speaking of turn-ons, that's Flipside CT's whole idea is to turn on. So here we go, here's a turn-on. These are all covers done very, very differently from the original versions. And they do a version of Beastie Boys, You Gotta Fight for Your Right to Party, that is unbelievable. It's on colored vinyl too, which doesn't hurt. It's on orange vinyl. And every song on here is pretty cool and pretty interesting and very, very different from the originals. So if you don't know about this album, check it out. Last but not least, a modern day psych band from Netherlands or somewhere in that area. The Soundtrack of Our Lives. This is the greatest hits LP. It's a great place to start. 2-record set. It's on colored vinyl as well, clear vinyl. And these guys are just, the songs are sonic. The lead singer's voice is sort of gravelly, which makes it really cool. They're just, I can't compare them to anybody. They sound like no one else. But if you like the modern day psych thing, you will like these guys a lot. They are fantastic. The Soundtrack of Our Lives. There you go. My, at least first installment. Maybe I'll do another one someday. I know it was a lot. It was more than I probably should have done. But check any of those out. If you're interested in any of those types of music, check them out. You'll like them. I swear. Okay, well that does it for this one. Thanks, Steve. By the way, a few other people have done these, by the way. I'm trying to think. Fit to be Tie-Dyed, I know, has done one of these. I'm forgetting what they're called already. Do not get old. This is my recommendation for you young people. Do not get old. Under the radar is what this video is called. So these are some things that are under the radar. Check them out. Check out my podcast, snapcracklepop.podomatic.com. Thank you all my subscribers, new, old. Thanks for watching all my videos, commenting, all of that stuff. I'll get this uploaded as soon as I can. Thanks. Bye, everyone.